Welcome to another Explainer. I am so incredibly pumped about today's topic because we're looking at a story that is equal parts high-stakes royal heist and brilliant psychological masterclass. Let's just dive right into it. We often think of criminal profiling and psychological traps as totally modern inventions, right? Stuff we see in today's true crime shows or read about in behavioral science journals. But the historical case file we're unpacking today actually comes to us from the royal courts of the ancient Vijayanagara Empire. And honestly, it proves that human psychology hasn't changed a bit. We're going to examine a fascinating scenario where a physical search failed completely, but a brilliantly laid psychological trap cracked the whole case wide open.
So who stole the Queen's precious necklace from the palace? That is the dramatic question that set off an absolute uproar in the royal court. Just imagine the scene for a second. A completely priceless diamond necklace belonging to the Queen has vanished out of thin air. And what makes this so incredibly compelling is that we're dealing with a classic locked room mystery. The necklace didn't disappear while the Queen was out traveling or anything. No, it vanished from deep within the highly secure, guarded walls of the palace itself, which meant the perpetrator wasn't just some random roaming bandit. It was someone who walked those halls every single day. Someone trusted. An inside job.
Section 1. The Queen's Missing Necklace. Initial facts of the case.
Okay, so King Krishnadevaraya's initial investigation went exactly how you'd expect a ruler to handle things. It was swift, it was decisive, and it was entirely focused on physical evidence. He immediately gathered all the palace servants, correctly declared the theft an inside job, and ordered the swift capture of the thief. His guards conducted a full, rigorous, top-to-bottom physical search of every single suspect and all their quarters. But the result? The necklace was completely missing. The king played by the traditional law enforcement playbook, but the physical search yielded absolutely nothing. Whoever took it had hidden it very, very well.
Section 2. Tenali Rama's test. Shifting the investigation.
Since the physical search was a bust, the king brings in his legendary advisor, Tenali Rama. Now, instead of ordering another completely fruitless teardown of the palace, Tenali Rama hands each suspect a super simple, everyday object, just a single banana leaf, and he gives them 3 very specific instructions. 1. Take the leaf. 2. Sleep with it under your pillow tonight. And 3. Tomorrow, the thief's leaf will magically show black marks. He presents this to the suspects with absolute, deadpan confidence. So, to the servants, this wasn't just some weird instruction, it sounded like an inevitable, magical lie detector test. Tenali Rama wasn't searching their rooms anymore. He was searching their minds.
Well, the immediate result was pretty spectacular. The suspects were absolutely gripped by fear, and this just brilliantly illustrates the power of an impending deadline mixed with the fear of the unknown. For the innocent servants, this was just a bizarre request. They had nothing to hide, right? So they just shrugged and went to sleep. But for the actual thief, the mere threat of this test planted a deep, agonizing seed of panic. Think about it. Tenali Rama hadn't actually done anything yet, but the psychological pressure cooker had been turned on full blast and the thief was trapped right inside it.
Section 3. The Thief's Panic. The Execution Phase.
So, morning rolls around, and Tenali Rama conducts his big inspection. For the innocent servants, their leaves remained entirely unchanged, normal size exactly as they were handed out the night before. But one specific servant hands over a leaf that has been visibly altered. It's been cut and it's noticeably shorter than all the rest. Out of dozens of identical leaves handed out the night before, only one single leaf comes back modified.
Now, upon seeing this single, shortened leaf, Tenali Rama doesn't even blink. He just smiles, turns to the king and declares, "Maharaj, this is the thief." Boom. He didn't ask the servant a single question. He didn't scream or demand to know where the necklace was. Based purely on this one altered piece of evidence, Tenali Rama makes a totally confident, immediate identification of the culprit.
Section 4. Solution without magic. Demystifying the trap. I absolutely love this explanation because it just completely demystifies the whole trap. Tenali Rama explains to the court, "I didn't put any magic marks on the leaves." The thief got scared and thought the leaf would actually grow, so out of fear he cut his leaf. Let's just unpack the brilliance here for a second. There was literally zero magic involved. It was pure reliance on human paranoia. The thief, totally burdened by a guilty conscience, completely overthought the situation. In his absolute panic, he assumed the quote-unquote magic would somehow enlarge the leaf overnight to expose him. So, what does he do? He tries to outsmart the magic by preemptively cutting a piece off, hoping that when it grew, it would just look normal. Instead, his desperate attempt to hide his guilt is exactly what created the physical evidence of it.
Because Tenali Rama had successfully isolated the correct suspect, the targeted physical search now worked flawlessly. The soldiers searched that specific servant, and sure enough, the queen's diamond necklace was found hidden deep within his personal belongings. And when confronted with the necklace and his own totally foolish mistake with the leaf, the servant basically folded immediately and confessed to the crime. The king was astounded. He highly praised Tenali Rama, and for good reason, because he hadn't used physical force, and he certainly hadn't used magic. He literally used the thief's own fear to catch him. The trap just executed itself.
Which brings us to this incredibly profound observation from Tenali Rama. Maharaj, a criminal's biggest fear is the truth of his crime coming out. That really hits the nail on the head regarding human behavior, doesn't it? The real prison isn't necessarily a dungeon. The real prison is the guilt itself. A guilty mind is a fearful mind. And a fearful mind is highly susceptible to suggestion, paranoia, and ultimately making totally irrational mistakes. The burden of maintaining a massive lie requires immense cognitive effort. Tenali Rama simply introduced a tiny variable that completely overloaded the thief's mental capacity to cope.
Section 5. Main lesson of the story. The universal takeaway. So the moral here is super clear, and it extends way beyond a stolen piece of royal jewelry. In trying to hide lies and crimes, a person often makes a mistake that reveals their true guilt. Honestly, the effort of the cover-up is usually what brings down the perpetrator. When someone is innocent, their behavior is natural, it's resting. But when someone is guilty, their behavior is constantly managed, carefully calculated, and very often overcorrected. That thief cutting the leaf in the middle of the night, it's the perfect metaphor for how the pure anxiety of concealment inevitably forces our hand into the light.
Now, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to chew on today. If you were guilty of something massive, what mistakes would your own fear force you to make? It's really easy to look at that servant and think he was being foolish, but under the crushing, suffocating weight of paranoia, human beings act incredibly predictably. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope breaking this down really helped illuminate the brilliant psychology at play in this historical case. Until next time, keep analyzing, keep questioning, and keep learning.